In this presentation, we're going to make month-end financial statements after the end of the second month of operations. Considering we have 2 months of operations, we will be making comparative financial statements. That includes then the comparative balance sheet, the comparative income statement. We'll also take a look at a transaction detailed report that will be helpful to test our numbers, is a good report for reviewing information, and maybe a report that could be used for billing purposes if billing on a transaction by transaction type of basis. Here we go with Xero. Here we are in our Get Great Guitars dashboard. We're going to be creating our financial statements at the end of month 2. Now note that as you're creating the financial statements, you might be doing this for for your supervisor or for a client. You want to get an idea of what is going to be the typical kind of things you're going to batch together. There's a whole lot of different types of reports that you can be running. Last time we ran the standard balance sheet and income statement, which would probably be one of the reports you would be running each time you could present information at the end of the month or year or a data input period. This time we want to practice those comparative financial statements since we have 2 months of information. So let's take a look at that. We're going to go to the accounting dropdown. Let's first start off with our balance sheet report. So we're going to go to our balance sheet report. We're going to do this a little bit more quickly since we have seen this in the beginning of the course. So we're going to try to put this together a bit more quickly here. So we're going to say that this is going to be as of the end of February. So I'm going to say the end of February. We're going to be updating that report. So that's going to be our standard report. Now we also want to have the month of January. I'm scrolling up a bit, holding control down to get to that 125. I'm going to go to reports up top. Now we can't do it this way typically, or you may not be able to do it this way given the data that we have, because if you're on one of these fields, for example, like end of last month or end of last quarter, then you can choose the previous period section. But we can't do that if we're not on, one of those preset type of formats because we're only setting a day here. So we can't really use this function. That's okay though. I'm going to remove the decimals while I'm here. I'm going to update this. I'm going to go down here and use the editing layout in order to do what we want to do in order to add January. So I'm going to go down there and add, and then we're going to add a column. So I'm just simply going to add a column up top. I'm going to select the little column item, and I want to add a date. So then that date I want to add is going to be for the end of January. So I'm going to say I want to pick up the end of January, and so January 31st. So there we have it. So now we have the February 1st, and then the January on it. So that's what we have so far. Then I would like a difference column. So I'd like to do some math on this. So I'm going to say I'd like another column, this time with a formula. Formula is going to be that we want to have insert, I want to take February numbers minus the January numbers. So I want to subtract those two out, and that should be our formula over here. That'll be the difference, and we'll name that the change or the difference. And then I'm going to add another tab, and this is going to be our horizontal analysis type of thing. So I'm going to say another column and another formula. And this formula then is going to be the percent, what do we call it? The percent change. And this is going to be the change column divided by the prior year, which is January, divided by January. So that's how we can construct this. And again, we could save this once we're done. So I'm going to go ahead and add that to our report. And so there we have that. So if we go on down, that looks pretty good. So it looks good, except I would like this in a percentage format. So I'm going to go back to my layout, back to the layout on the bottom left. And then on this third column here, I'd like that third column to be in the format of a percentage. So I'm going to say show as a percent. Check that item off, and let's check that out. I think that'll be better. So let's look at it. So then if we scroll back down, so now we have our percentage change over here. So that looks pretty good. That looks pretty good. That's like how I imagined it to be. Now I'm just going to change the date up here to a comparative balance sheet. And so I think I spelled that right, which obviously means I have no idea, but I'm going to go down here and say save this. Let's go ahead and save, and we're going to save it as a custom, and I'm going to save it as a comparative balance sheet. And so we'll save it like that and say save. And so there's that one. I'm going to right click up top, and I'm going to duplicate that tab. So we'll bring it over so we have that open on the right. And then if we were to kind of, take take a look at the difference between these two items. Just remember, this is as of a point in time. So we're new month was as of the end of February. We can compare that to where we stood as of the end of January. So that's the comparison. Let's go back over to the first tab now. Let's do the same thing for an income statement. Selecting the accounting dropdown, go on down to an income statement. We'll construct a comparative income statement in a similar type of fashion. So here is our income statement. We're going to change the days. This time we have a range, so we might be able to do this in a little bit easier format this time. So let's go from February to February, the end of February, like the beginning to the end. That did it to me again where it popped out like that. I don't like that. So I'm going to go over to February. There it is. That works. So then let's update that. So now we have just the month of February, February 1st to February 29th. Then we're going to go to the report settings over here. And now since I have 1 month time period, you would think I would be able to say, hey, I want to compare with the previous month in that format. And then I'll remove the decimals. That'll take away one more column we would have to add kind of manually down here, which isn't that difficult anyways. But anyways, update that. And there we have it. Now we have February and January compared to each other. That looks good. That looks good. Now we'll just add the difference column and the percentage change column. So I'm going to go to the edit tab. Edit the layout down below. This is the layout, and we're going to edit it. So we're going to go up top and add a column to the layout, and we want this to be a formula. It's going to be a formula column, a formula, and we're going to say that this is going to be an insert the February minus January. So we're just going to take those two difference all the way down. This is going to be the change, I'm going to call it. And then we'll add another one. Let's add another one. This one's going to be a formula as well, a formula. And this is going to be the change divided by the previous period, which is January. And then I want to show that as a percentage. And this is going to be the percentage. I'm going to call it the percentage change. Percentage change. Let's check that out. So we're going to say done. See if it looks like what we all are picturing in our minds that it's going to be like. And we can then adjust the name up top to the comparative as well. I can put the comparative here. So comparative. It's comparative. Let's see why it needs an E on the end. But anyway, it just seems okay. So we have down here, we've got this comparison looks exactly like my imagination was looking at it. So I think it looks correct here. Everything looks good. So you could do that. You could take a look at the year-over-year comparison. Obviously, we had a lot of changes in the second month from the first month. We added new income line items, had different line items for the income. Some of the standard expenses you would expect to be somewhat similar, and those would include things like the telephone expense and the utilities and whatnot. Let's go ahead and save this one. So I'm going to go to the save, and I'm going to make it a custom. Oh, I made it comparative. That's what I want to call it. And then we'll save that one. And then I'm going to right click and duplicate that. Now remember, if you look at the balance, this is our point in time and the income statement is the performance document. Now let's open the transaction detail report. Let's go back over to the first tab. Let's go to the accounting dropdown, and this time we're going to be going to the reports. So we're going to go on down to the reports. We're going to go down to the bottom of the reports where we have that transaction detail information in the accounting area. So we are in the accounting area, and the one I was wanting to look at was the journal report. So let's take a look at the journal report. And then we're going to be running this just for the month of February, which it looks like it's doing right now. It did that for us already, so that's good. All right, so now what you want to do is basically check these numbers. You're gonna be looking at the assets, the balance sheet. I will be providing a trial balance and these reports, so you can take a look at them and compare your numbers if you so choose. You can compare the asset numbers for the month of February. If anything is off, you want to go into them, drill into them, and then you also want to think about a date issue. So you would then want to increase the date to a later date and see if it's just a problem with the date. In other words, increase the date, see if there's any changes in the numbers. If there is, drill down on that and see if there has been data input at a later time. Then you can do the same thing, obviously, for the income statement as well. And then if there's a problem, then you can go to the journal report. I'm going to hold down Control and scroll up a bit. And then you can see each of the transactions basically in journal entry format. Within this report, then you could drill down within this report, Or you can go to the related account, which is something I might recommend doing that instead. In other words, see, this one is increasing the accounts receivable. That's on the balance sheet. Then jump over to the balance sheet and use the zoom feature within the balance sheet to find this transaction by amount and by date. And then you can zoom into the actual document and see if there's any problems with them. So you could go through each of these transactions as well. And like I say, if you were to review someone else's work, or for billing purposes, if you wanted to bill by number of transactions or even accounts that were affected, then you could do this. Something like, I'm going to charge this much for if there's this many accounts to that many accounts affected, or this many transactions to that many transactions. You can run a report such as this to kind of look at that. You can also run a report such as this to review your work or the work of others. All right, let's go ahead and print these out now. We're going to be saving these like we have in the past. We're imagining we're going to have to print these out and give them to someone at the end of the month. And obviously, there's many other reports that we can do this with as well. So just you got to think about how you want to package this together and then how you would like to present it. So we will then go back to our balance sheet. I'm going to export it as a PDF file. So let's export it as a PDF. And then it'll show up down there, and then we're going to drag it on over to our folder here. So then I'm going to pick it up. Whoa, that was funny. I'm going to pick it up and I'm going to drag it into the folder. Then I'm going to right click on it. We're going to rename it. I'm going to call it the Comparative Balance Sheet. So Comparative Balance Sheet. Let's do the same for the other reports. The income statement next. I'm going to go to the income statement tab, and then we'll do the Excel thing as well. Go to the income statement tab. We'll go to reports. We're going to export as a PDF. That'll open up down below. Going to drag that over into our folder again. So I'll drag that over into our folder. Then we'll rename that one. I'm gonna right click on it so that we can do so, and then rename it. This is going to be a comparative income statement. I don't need an S on it. There it is. And then we'll do the same for the next one, or the last one we have here, which is the journal report. Got to scroll down to the bottom to get the export down here. It's down below with that little blue button. We will export that one as a PDF. Same process, dragging that into our folder. Then we'll name that one. So I'm going to bring that back over so I can see the name here. And I'm going to say that I'm going to rename this one to a journal report, like so. Then, of course, we can attach these three, or we can put them into their separate folder, another folder that we can then provide to somebody. So if we were to do that, let's go ahead and view these as like big things like that. And then I'm going to make another folder, and we can call this like financial statements. Financial statements. Let's just do it like that for Feb, because that's short for February. And then I'm going to pull these in there so we can pull them in there. And then, of course, we could zip the file. So we'll pull those in there. And then we could zip the file by right-clicking on it and compressing it and zipping it in that format. Or if we needed to print these and we wanted to collate them in some way, we can put these all into an Excel sheet and make a PDF with one file in that format as well, as we've seen. So let's take a look at that. We'll do that fairly quickly. We're going to go to the export. We're going to go to Excel. That'll then generate an Excel document down here, which we will open up. So then typically I copy this and I'm going to put it on a new tab over here so I get my grid lines back. And there's probably another way you can do that, but someone will tell me about it, I'm sure. Comparative balance, which would be nice because there's probably a different way I can do this. But I'm going to make another tab and go back to the prior tab and then put my cursor up top and just right click on this entire thing. Going to copy the whole thing. And then I'm going to go back to the second tab, and I'm going to be in A1 and right click and paste it right there in A1. And then we'll bring this back up by selecting the plus button down below. We're going to bring that up to the 150, 150. Then I'm going to delete the first tab, right clicking on that tab and delete that tab. So there's going to be our document. Now I'm going to save this. I'm going to go to the file tab up top and save as. I'm going to put it into our folder where that other stuff was at, where we're going to save it. And so I'll browse to do that. We'll open up the old browse. And then I'm going to paste the location where I want it to go. Except it's thinking right now. It's doing a lot of thinking. There it goes. And so I'll paste that one there. And then I'm going to rename it not just for the balance sheet, but this is going to be our full financial statement because we're going to put the other reports in there. So I'm just going to put this, the financial statements, Feb. And there we have that. And then I'm going to minimize this, and we'll do the same thing for the income statement. Let's go on over to the income statement, do a similar process. I'm going to export it this time, but I'm not going to save it. I'm just going to open it up. So I'm going to export. I'm going to open it up. And then we're just going to take that information out of this report and put it into that other workbook because that's where we want it to be. So I'm going to enable the editing on it so that it allows me to edit. Take that whole thing. I'm going to say Control A this time to highlight the whole thing. That didn't do it. Control A over here. And then right click and copy the whole thing. Copy the whole thing and then minimize this. I'm going to make another tab on this one. Another tab. Double click on it to rename it. Call this a Comparative IS for income statement. And then I'm going to paste that in A1 and paste that like that. We'll increase this back up to the 150. So I'm down here on the right where the percentage is going back up to 150. And let's save this so it doesn't, we don't lose it or anything. And then we're going to go back and do this one more time for the last one. We have to go all the way down to the bottom of the report to do it this time. We're going to export this one to Excel. So then it's going to open up. We're simply going to open it up. We'll enable the editing, and then we'll copy the data within it and take it to our other document. So I'm going to enable editing here. I'm off screen, but it popped up somewhere else. Here it is for you to see this time. There it is. I'm going to select the triangle, copy the whole report, or select the whole report. Right click on the selected area and copy it. Then we'll minimize this one. Going to add a new tab to our report where we want it to go. Double click on the tab and call this the journal. And then we'll paste that in A1. Right click and then pasting that in A1. We'll make it a bit larger down here in the 100%. We'll bring that on up to 150 once again. And there is our report. So I'm going to save this. Then if we needed to print it or if we want to email it as one PDF file, we can go to the File tab. We can go down to Print. And the key is that we want to print not just this worksheet, but the entire workbook. So we're going to print the entire workbook. Do a little overview of it and see how long it is. Everything looks pretty good. They kind of squunched up the journal entry, but I'm okay with that. It's going to be printing now to the Qt PDF printer, which will make it a PDF file. So we're going to then print it as a Qt PDF printer or to the Qt PDF printer. And then the PDF printer will make it into a PDF. So we're going to save it here. It's going to be going to financial statement. The name looks good. And there we have that. And so I actually saved it into section 7, but then I went and grabbed it and put it where it should be in section 8 here. So there we have it. So now we can zip this file and give it to someone. We can print the information from the Excel file and we can do that so it'll collate for us so we don't have to manually collate, or we can give someone the PDF file and attach just the one PDF file. Again, what you want to do is really think about how you're going to present these reports on like a period by period basis, maybe a monthly basis or a quarterly basis, and then think about what kind of reports you want in there. You want the fundamentals, the financial statements, and then you want other reports that might be supplemental, and then other reports, how much information do you want that might be just, other reports to say, look, these are some other nice reports we can have that may not be something that is used all the time. Like, so how many reports do you want to have in there, and how can you give that to someone in such a way that they're confident with it, even if they're not opening it, they're confident that the work's being done and that they can go back in and basically depend on you when the work is needed, possibly at the quarter end or year end for sure for the taxes.